He is a respected member of the Unreal tournament communities and also a successful TDM admin at Skyrom. In competition, he is a strong duel player, consistently a few steps ahead of his opponent, and a skilled TDM player with solid game sense.
Welcome to another one of these episodes. I don't really have a good intro figured out for these episodes yet. I should really actually work on that, but we have another one for you. Today's guest is someone that I have known probably on and off for the better part of 20 years now online. This is a Canadian friend of mine. Everybody, welcome to the stream, to the podcast, to the recording, whatever you want to call this. A good friend of mine, DaSnaksta. Let's go ahead and have you introduce yourself.
Sure. Well, first off, let me say something first. I think it's important that we give some recognition to you guys. Oscar and DVP, you've done an amazing job with these interviews. They're really professionally made, and to be honest, I'm kind of honored to be interviewed next to the giant names that you guys have interviewed and are planning to interview.
Oh, we got some good ones cooking up, friend.
Yeah, for sure. I heard some. I have some inside knowledge, inside cues. So, my name is DaSnaksta. I actually live in the eastern part of Canada, in the province of Quebec. So my main language is actually French. I've been part of the UT scene for quite a while. I actually started playing the game in the year 2000, and I have very good memories of it because I remember it was summer because my father was actually shouting upstairs, asking me to get out of the computer. But I was already addicted to UT. And I was only playing the single player mode campaigns back then. I remember that I was playing with music on, and like every kid, right?
Let's I love that your enthusiasm here. You're jumping ahead just a pinch. Let me ask you, do you recall when you first played the game? Like, what was your first memory of installing the game? What was your exposure? Did a friend have it? Did you see it at a game store? Where did you get exposure to the game for the first time?
Actually, I didn't get any sort of exposure. I had actually my first introduction to UT was downloading an illegal copy of it. I didn't buy the game originally. So
I would say Epic cover your ears, but there's no shot they're listening to this anyway.
Yeah. I remember that my first take of the game was playing DM Oblivion, which was the first map of the campaign, and I ran through the campaign many times, gradually increasing the level of difficulty, and it's just that this competitive nature of me was already present back then, not even playing online initially. So those were my first memories of the game, really.
Okay.
Eventually I got to play online with real humans, and I think the addiction game became even stronger. And actually, I don't know how this sort of transition happened, but when I started playing online, I actually got hooked to Instagib. And I played Instagib for a good year and a half.
Yeah, same here.
So it's funny coming from me because, people know me as this more spammy player nowadays. But the mindset that I had back in the days was I wanted to prove that I was the best player. And to me, the best players were actually those with better aiming. So ironically, I became known for my spamming abilities after. So
so did you... when you first started playing, all right, you get into the game, you finally start playing with online players. You're in Quebec. Do you have a community nearby that you're playing with? People that you know at school or people that you know in your community at all? Or is it just distant people from either other parts of Canada or the US or something?
It was mainly distant. I mean, I never hung out with a group of nerds as much as I was a nerd.
Sure.
So I had no friends that were into gaming at all. So I was mainly the only one. I had one or two friends maybe that were into WoW at the time, but that wasn't necessarily 2000. WoW came
No,
out
yeah,
maybe
2004.
2003, 2000.
In
Yeah,
2004 is when it came out, yeah.
so yeah, I was really a loner being a gamer, and so most of the people that I met in this game were not real friends. They were online friends that I became to know
I wonder
them online.
I wonder if there's any truth to this because and let me ask the question. I'll get your thoughts on it. A lot of the top players that I got introduced to early on were all Canadians. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's because you guys have such vast stretches of space between cities and like it's in the areas that are densely populated, they're dense, but everything else is so sparse that if you live in a small town somewhere, you probably live pretty far from a lot of other people. And so I wonder if it's just all that time spent indoors and harsh winters that you're like, well, we got to get good at something. So I wonder if there's something to that. What are your thoughts on that?
About me getting better for what? Or I
Well,
didn't.
my question is basically, is this a trend amongst different Canadians that you guys have all too much time spent indoors in dark
Oh,
winters?
I don't think. I mean, historically, I don't think the Canadian. If you look back in the early UT, I don't
Hmm.
think Canadians were necessarily strong at the game. Like if you look back at the World Cyber Games, I mean, we had Canadians that actually went there, like
Hmm.
Hannah Fury, Doze, and we had successful Canadians, but I don't think they ever matched how good the quality of the U.S. players back
Hmm.
then.
Hmm.
I think it's later on, like Mintech, Flux, and I became like $1,000
Yeah, yeah.
player status in MLUT. But very early on, like Enna Fury came back in early seasons of MLUT, but I can't say that he was like a top player anymore. Like his
Sure.
play style was very too defensive.
Hmm.
People hated his defensive play style. You know, because remember back in the days, people used to play duel. Was mainly known for his duel game type, but people played duel with armor only. And
Hmm.
how you
Yeah.
would go about playing duel on Leandry, you wouldn't leave. You wouldn't necessarily
Just
leave
stay by the armor the whole time. Yeah.
the flag. So, and
Yeah.
that's how the game was played, and certainly it was less interesting to watch. And I think, but fortunately, they fixed that at the next edition of WCG, which was well, the first two editions was armor only, but I think the
Hmm.
2002
Hmm.
one was actually with belt. But the NA scene actually never really sort of migrated to using the belt necessarily until a while. But yeah, the Canadian scene has always been weaker initially, but I mean,
I
there's a
think over
ton of good
time,
Canadian
yeah,
players nowadays,
ton
and
of good players now.
if you look, I mean, I'm trying to expand there. Like out of UT 99, we had players like Gimmicks was very successful at UT 2K4. He hit the maybe top three in
Sure.
WCG in 2K4, and nowadays there's people like Reflex. Last Reflex is probably one of the best gamer I've seen, and I like to compare myself a little bit to him because I saw I saw him move between different games. Like he plays Quake as well.
Hmm.
I can
Hmm.
tell he's the sort of same personality that I am. He likes to grind. He's been doing aim labs, I bet, and Kovacs type of training for years, and he's just a very naturally and talented player. So yeah, nowadays Canadians are very competitive for
For
sure.
sure. Sure. So you touched on a couple different things, and I want to kind of dive into them. First, you had mentioned duel, and I do want to talk about game modes within UT because you started, as you said, as an Instagib player, and you've kind of developed a more spammy weapon style play. What game modes appeal to you? Did you go directly into duels? Did you stick with TDM? What have you tried CTF? Let's talk about some game modes that you've given a shot.
Oh, I mean, there's no doubt that for me, I Duel has always been the best game, and that's actually the game mode I was most interested in. Even when I got into the game,
Hmm.
I wasn't even playing TDM that much, and I remember that when I joined MLUT the first season, which was 2003, I believe,
Hmm.
I was ranked maybe 78, 70th percentile or something.
Okay.
But I wasn't even playing TDM. I was known already back then as a dueler, so
Hmm.
that's when I got introduced to weapons, and it happened out of the pure random event of a random server. Someone asked me to join a clan, and that clan eventually had a merger with Area 51. And
Hmm.
and within Area 51, it's really when I started playing duels with people actually hanging out in the IRC channel. And actually, I was dueling a lot of people within the Area 51 clan,
Yeah.
Vagrant Sniper, I mean, Sideshow Bob. I mean, there's tons of Area 51 members that were very good at the game. So,
I do think that
I mean,
Area
for
51...
me, duel has been... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think that Area 51 had this kind of... what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like an amoeba. It just kind of absorbed top players over time. And as the game lost player base over many, many years, so many of us ended up in Area 51 because it was one of the last places that you could go to find real competitive people playing. I didn't join until maybe 2003, 2004, something like that, at the point in time where the people had started to switch over to 2K3 or 2K4. Most people had left to play WoW, a lot of stuff like that, and the game had started to die out a little bit, is when Vertigo had asked me if I wanted to join. It was one of those things where I think it was just like, oh, let's hang on to the good players that we've got left. Anyway, sorry, it was a complete tangent, but when you mentioned it, it kind of came to mind.
I'm not sure that Area 51 was necessarily a powerhouse clan. Even when I joined, it was late 2001, maybe early 2002 when I joined Area 51.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are many teams out there that we would struggle to beat, and that we're still playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
And but over time, I somewhat agree with you that when the game started dying more, well, not dying, I wouldn't describe UT99 dying when 2K3 or 2K4 came out. I think our communities just split. UT99 was always alive because we had MLUT, and there were still like over 200 people actually and players participating in TDM League, and CTF was even bigger back then. So
did you
play mentioned CTF? That point. Sorry?
Did you play
if CTF? I played CTF? Yeah. No. I tried it a couple of bugs, but I never could get into it. Okay. I know I'm walking a little bit on eggshells here, and I have to be very careful because some people will come in and come back at me if I say something about CTF wrong. But
whoever could you mean?
But anyways, no, it's not a game type I adored. I feel it was too shock heavy, like people using combos on the shock stand, and I felt like it gave me this impression that some weapons were just underused, whereas in weapon and in TDM or duel, you have to make best use of some of these weapons, and that's why I was always leaning toward duel. I feel duel is the best game type where there's much better weapon usage diversity than any other game types.
So I have one question related to that. If you feel like duel has got the best weapon usage, why do you spam flak so much? I hate you.
I don't spam. I don't agree with that. I think I make good usage of.
Of course you don't agree with that.
I think I have a pretty diverse range of weapons in my range, and I try to make best use of those, and I think in the best situation, that's why that's how I think I've always approached the game. I don't think I'm a flak heavy guy. I like flak. I mean, it's very rewarding to get a full flak on somebody.
Yeah.
But I never really classified myself as a flak player. In fact, I can aim very well in the game. I think that's a component that maybe people don't realize maybe out of me. Like I get probably not within the top 1% of the aim players, definitely. I would never dare to say that, but there. Mm-hmm. But the top 5%, I would say, is a realistic threshold, I would say.
I guess what I mean is that I was always associating you, like whenever I play you on Codex, the first thing that I always think is I have to try to deny flak, and it never works, but it's fine. Anyway, so I also wanted to talk about, because it's the other thing that you mentioned Quake. I know that you've played a couple other games. What are some of the other games that you have played?
I mean, I've played all UTs. I don't think people know that how much I've played other UTs, like UT3, UT4, UT2K4. I played them all, and I was part of tournaments in 2K4 as well, and there were tournaments on Proving Grounds early on, this ladder, and I don't think World OGL had any tournaments, but 2K4 they had a ladder, and I was also quite successful in 2K4. Like I remember being ranked like top 3, top 5, maybe in the ladder that had 200 people on it. So like I played the game, I just didn't stick to it. UT3, I played it. I played UT4 for a short amount of time, both of them, because they died quite quickly. I played all Quake, not all Quake, because Quake World and Quake 2 I haven't played, but I played Quake 3, Quake Live, Quake 4, Quake Champions, Diabolical, Painkiller.
Oh my God.
Any sort of
You're an
game
addict.
that had any sort of game, yeah, I'm an addict, dual addict, because any sort of game that had the dual scene, I would move to that game, and when it was hot, like Painkiller, it was hot for some time when they had this world tour with big names like Fatality, Vu playing the game, and I played them. I remember that I played Fatality, and he stunned me. It was terrible. And the thing about Fatality, the game that I played, the few games I've played against him, was he would only host his own server, so he would have 5 ping and force you to play with 80 ping. So
Look,
anyways,
as someone who regularly gets 5 ping, I see nothing wrong with this.
So yeah, I would move back and forth between different games, and that's why I've been so on and off with UT99. And part of it was because I got irritated with the game. Certainly, I had a special relationship with UT of love-hate. Certainly, where I would get irritated by it and then move to something else that had another dual scene. But second game I would pick would definitely be Quake 3, Quake Live. I tend to group them together because they have some very similar mechanics, but weapon balance was different. But yeah, definitely those are the 2 games I've played the most, and probably have more duels recorded in Quake Live than I do in UT99 actually.
Wow, okay. So that brings up an interesting subject for me, is you have a bit of a reputation as someone who has very strong opinions about this game.
Yeah.
And I think that because you have played so many different games at a competitive level, in duels and things like that, that your opinions are formed around comparison to other games. What do you think are UT99's strengths? And then I'm sure it will open up a whole conversation. We will talk about the weaknesses. But let's start with what UT99 has going for it.
The weakness of UT99?
No. Strength, buddy. I explicitly said strength. Immediately wants to jump to weaknesses.
I feel the game is very fun overall. It's very rewarding and it's appealing because of how the weapon damage deals so much damage. So I tend to define it as more arcade in the sense that it's more easy for newcomers to break map control in duels specifically, and it's rewarding for people to, like, I'll give the Mercy example. Like Mercy doesn't necessarily have a fancy play style, but he can still be successful at the game despite that. Like his mechanics are definitely lower than the top players. But because of that, the strongness of the weapons, people got addicted to the game. So it's definitely addictive because of weapon damage, and people can get kills. So similar to, like, in a way, I'll give this Counter-Strike example where you can get kills on people on Counter-Strike because if you get an easy headshot, then it's basically one-shot kill pretty much, especially if you're playing with the op. But the point is, it's rewarding for people and it got addictive. So certainly that's one of the strengths I would give, that it's easier for newcomers to get kills. Whereas if Quake can be a lot tougher to get into because breaking map control is definitely harder. And if you look in the duel specifically, I mean, Quake is definitely more hardcore than UT ever will be. Because there's 4 items at a time, usually on the maps, 1 mega, 1 red, and 2 yellow armors, and they come up more frequently than the UT items. So you have to be a lot more dynamic on the map, cycle through the power-ups. So it's a whole different game, and that's one of the reasons I think why you started this questions asking that.
I wanted to know the strengths.
I like
first.
to compare UT with Quake, but yeah, I certainly have some sort of bias in how I've always wanted UT99 to feel like.
All right, well that opens the door.
I always had strong opinions on on weapon balance, and to me it was always very clear that UT99 had poor weapon balance. I feel like even more so with pain compensation, but so yeah, there's definitely some weaknesses in the game.
For sure. Give me your top 2, 3. What are the things that you see as overwhelmingly feelings like you really want to change this one particular thing because it feels so unbalanced to you? You say it's got unbalance and it seems obvious to you, but what are they?
Well, I feel like the game should have better overall. It should reward more good decision making. That's something that I've always been annoyed. Like, part of me getting irritated by the game for so many years and moving to a different game was because I felt sometimes I would die when I would take the right decision of like challenging someone when I have more armor than someone, but the sniper rifle before was simply out of control, especially playing a low ping player. So I would challenge someone and he would be able to get a kill, which was a very clutch kill, but those clutch kills can't happen so much in Quake because if someone gets caught with a railgun out, which is some sort of equivalent with a sniper, most likely you're going to destroy him because by the time he shoots his second railgun shot, you have time to fire like 2 rockets pretty much. So like this is why I say that it rewards better decision making when you're playing games like Quake, definitely. And like I said, I certainly had some bias coming into UT99 and somewhat pushing my viewpoints on I would prefer if UT had better balance of the game.
Is this why you...
So many people want to play the game. I understand that many people want to play the game because of nostalgia reason. But like I feel like there's a way to correct somehow weapon balance while preserving some sort of nostalgia. It doesn't mean like you need to make major changes to the game.
For sure.
Just slight changes to still keep the game feel the same. But at the same time, like I think it's important because I see people like Killing and Last coming to our community, which are 2K4 UT4 players, and I listen to what these people say. Like they instantly recognize that sniper is too OP, even with the settings that we played, which is reduced, and they recognize that shock combos are too powerful, and flak is a bit wonky with the randomness of the flak, the randomness of the spread of the shards. So I tend to want to agree with these people because these people play a game that is more balanced. Like, as much as we can criticize UT3, UT4 because the games were buggy and the games didn't have a polished UI or whatever reason, I think what these games achieved in terms of weapon balance, it's much more appropriate, in line with my Quake ideal always. And I feel like we should listen more carefully to what these people have in mind because I think it's very reflective of what their old community thinks. And if we sort of try to balance the game better, I feel we could potentially eventually make our community growth, because let's face it, right now our community, I don't think it's thriving that much, and I would certainly prefer if we could somewhat bridge out communities that's why I have strong viewpoints. I know
for sure. What do you say then? And this is I'm not coming at you antagonistically. This is just a genuine curiosity. What do you say then to the people who would make the argument that we should not be trying to make our game more like 2K4 or more like Quake or anything else, because then what's the point in playing 99? It just becomes a clone of those other games, or like what becomes the point of playing anything other. Like, the game is unbalanced, yes, but that is part of the charm or allure of UT99, is that it's so hectic and fast and it's unbalanced in these ways, and for that gives it a certain type of charm. What do you say to that argument?
I think these people that say that is because they want to play out of nostalgia and the way they remember the game. But I've never really somewhat agreed with nostalgia, because everyone has their own reference in time on when they played the game. Because okay, are you asking to play the game that you played early on when you could mow down people with mini and pulse, and these were the only viable weapons on close range maps even. Or you ask, or is it before we introduced fast weapon switch, or after? Is it when we started using open AL, or like there's so many features that got introduced into the game. Now we have ping compensation. So, and it's everyone in the community has their own reference and is somewhat biased. I feel as biased as I am.
For sure. I have a theory.
I think I have an overall broader view because I felt like I have more experience than the typical arena FPS player, because in terms of having seen more games at higher level, I don't want to sound pretentious, but I think it's very true that I've tried many different games and try to compete in every single one of them. And so I feel like I can better tell which games is better balanced than others, but you're right. I mean, I am certainly biased in some ways.
Yeah, no, that's all right. It's all right. As long as you're willing to acknowledge that. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with recognizing your own viewpoints. I was just going to say, and this is very lighthearted, I have a theory that is somewhat similar. Are you familiar with the rock band Weezer?
Yeah.
I feel like everybody's favorite Weezer album is the one that came out when they were in high school. And that Weezer has always been just as good as they are, right? They've never been better. They've never been worse. They're just as good as they are. And everyone thinks that the best Weezer album or the best time for Weezer was always the album that came out when they were in high school. And that's why people get stuck in this kind of frame of reference, as you're saying. They get stuck in this sense, like this was in the game was the best, Anyway, so we've talked about a few different things. We've talked about your love for Duel. We talked about different game modes that you've played. We've talked about this different aspects, like what brought you to the game and your passion for wanting to bring other players in and little tweaks and changes that we can make to the game. I do want to ask you, what keeps you coming back? What are some of the positive memories? What are some of the happiest times and like most rewarding experiences that you've had playing this game? Good competitions or anything like that?
I mean, what keeps bringing me to UT99 is the competition. I've made good friends for sure, but certainly, I mean, I would be lying to you if I told you that I played the game for fun all those years. I mean, I'm such, me, right?
Yeah,
I'm such a competitive person.
I've never known you to have fun, so.
No, I had fun, but certainly it wasn't my driving factor my driving motivation to play the game. I mean, the reason I played Duel also, because I could get a better sense of me progressing in the game, and so sometimes I would go back to UT because I wanted to play some duels. I was tired of playing Quake Live, whatever reason. But like I have this, I've always seen gaming as a way to push myself, and whether it was UT99, whether it was UT4, any game I've played, I always had the same sort of a mindset of being very competitive and trying to reach and people have to realize the amount of efforts that I put in early on to get to that that level. I think I reached a high level. I'm certainly not the best player, but like there was so much dedication and passion, and I certainly took a lot of my background as a person. Like maybe you can relate to that, but in music, you play music as well, right? So in music, like to get better at Duel, I try to use some sort of a concepts I extracted from music, where if you encounter this very tough passage where you can't, like 3-4 measures of extreme chords, or like 2-3-4 voices intertwined with each other, if you try to grind that 100 times and expect your brain to do it better the next day, you're completely off. Because if you try to this sort of mindless grinding, okay, I'm going to try to repeat that 100 times, you're going to develop bad reflexes. And I try to avoid that early on, at least in UT, where I was really looking at myself play, like through demos, and because I wanted to criticize myself. And the idea in music is, if you encounter this passage, you need to take it slowly. And if you take it slowly, you actually let your brain remember the information. So you're trying to develop a good intuition by looking at everything slowly, because
Yeah.
everything happens so fast, right? In gaming, you don't have the time necessarily, like as a newcomer to the game, you don't have necessarily have time to go to analyze all of those decisions. But if you look back at the demo, look play by play, trust me, your brain will be a lot more conscious when you encounter
Yeah.
this situation.
Practice with
So, and
intentionality.
yeah, but you have to develop that. I feel you haven't asked those sort of questions to your other interviewers, but I'd be
Oh,
very curious to know what was their sort of training regime. For me, that I watched tons of demos, tons, and
that is
that's why some sort of developed this
excellent
intuition for the
feedback.
game.
That's excellent feedback. I am curious, and I will ask those kinds of questions. It's interesting, and I'm just for full clarity and disclosure to anybody watching this now. I think it's because I know you so well, and we've known each other for so long. It feels much more like a natural conversation between the two of us. With a lot of these other guys, and they're great names, obviously, and they're historic figures within the game. I'm meeting a lot of them for the first time in person, and so it's a different environment, and it feels slightly more formal. Whereas this, I feel like you and I can have this conversation any day of the week. Really, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do want to talk on some other things that I have asked other people. Give me a top moment in a true competition. Give me a duel that sticks out in your mind. Give me a 2v2 or something. Give me a moment that sticks out in your mind. It's like, oh man, I'm always going to remember that game.
Uh, I mean, I certainly have good memories of like one game specifically that's tough. Maybe the Ownwell tournament I participated in, which is a duel tournament. One of the few duel tournaments I participated in UT99, which was a match against Sonic. I was out of control on Agony, which was a tiebreaker, with 3 minutes left, and I remember breaking map control on Agony is extremely tough. And he was like at 199, 150. But it was extremely hard. But I managed to break map control when we was in the lead, and I pulled it off. So I still have good memories also of playing against Bleh. I didn't get many chance to play him in my life, but he's certainly a great player that did amazing things playing with such high ping. But I have good memories of general, like as early as my Instagib days. I remember like these ladder activity I participated in, like Proving Grounds and World OGL, and we also had IG League in the Instagib community. And I remember like being very stressed because I mean I was young and I didn't know how to compose with the stress for sure, and it's something I definitely had to learn over the years. But and I remember like being anxious of which enemy would challenge me, because how these ladders work is we would actually be challenged from people from the bottom, and because they would want to climb up, right? And I remember like also being anxious on the maps they would pick, because on Proving Ground specifically it was crazy. Like it had this huge map list where people could pick in duel, for instance, maps like Zito. I played those maps in duel official matches. Zito, Venom, Viridian. So all of maps that would be some sort of considered as troll maps. But eventually I actually got the number one in the Proving Ground ladders and weapons. I had to challenge Vagrant Sniper for it. And do you know which map did he pick?
Deck, I would guess. No.
No, his map was actually Morpheus. So.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I did have to beat him on Morpheus, and so I took the number one spot, and I kept it there until the ladder died. But that was like maybe 2003.
Okay, cool. That's great.
But these are great memories for sure that I have.
That's awesome. I do want to ask, because early on in the game, you and I have talked about this before. There was this kind of not reverence necessarily, but a type of admiration perhaps for the way that common TDM games were played in Europe versus in North America. What do you think happened in terms of the development of the North American scene? And how does that kind of compare to what's going on in Europe and how they have stuck with positional play, for example? And you and I have talked recently about the idea of trying to reintroduce positional play in North America. Do you think that the North American scene is untamable? Is my question.
I think it's just out of laziness that people are not willing to hold position because I feel that I agree with you that some people tend to play TDM here than the same way they would play DM in a way. They run around the map without sticking to position. Not many. Some people do play positions in our community. I won't mention names, uh, but yeah, certainly, yeah. I think people feel it more rewarding for them. I think maybe they play this way because they somewhat hack selfishly. They want to go get some kills rather than sticking in one position, which can be feel more boring. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
that's the mentality these people are actually going through to not play position heavy. But as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I'm a very some sort of rigorous person and like disciplined. So I've always wanted
Mm-hmm.
to to be efficient in some way, like through my this grinding to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that I do take the proper decision. And in TDM, the proper thing to do is to hold position because you can control so much on the map.
Yeah.
So I lean towards that because I want to be more efficient on the map and I want my team to be more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think
yeah, sort of.
I
Go
think that it
ahead,
has
sorry.
something to do with clans. So here's my thought, right? I think that
Okay, you mean you? Yeah. Well,
as organized play with clans started to fall apart a little bit, and it was a lot of free agent players and individuals throwing together random pickup games, the sense of teamwork, the sense of wanting your team to shine rather than individual player mechanics and individual frag counts and stuff like that to shine. I think that's when that slippery slope started to happen. Do you think there's anything to that?
I mean, if you look back early on, like Klansman, like Mullet Man, Sovereign, they all played, which were the top teams
Mm-hmm.
in North America back in 2001, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
They had strong position as well,
Mm-hmm.
so they played the same way. But yeah, it got lost over the time because we were so focused on draft league format,
Yeah.
like through MLUT and when you're focused on draft league, you always change your teammates, so people don't have as much chemistry definitely than when they have been playing with each other for years, which is the
Yeah.
case in Europe certainly. So that certainly has to do with it as well.
So all of these questions are leading up to this notion, which is because of ping compensation, we are starting to get a little bit more crossover between the European players and the North American players. You recently played in one of their cups. They've had some players come over and play some pickup games with us recently. As these communities start to blend together a little bit more, do you think that we will see an increase in positional play, or is that something of somewhat of a bygone era because we don't have the teamwork and the composition to make that stick?
Uh, Not sure about the Latino communities, but they're more CTF heavy, right? So
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, as CTF players, I guess they already tend to lean towards more position because if you
Mm-hmm.
play defense, you have to stick to your position, right?
Yeah.
Um, but even like with, I feel like if there's been a good community size increase coming from the Europe, then certainly we would see a change. But I don't think we're going to necessarily see a big change even from the Latino community coming to. It's really I think the Europeans that where that
Mm-hmm.
concept is really cemented, and it's
Mm-hmm.
very it's been like that for years. But it has to do as well because EDM is so much bigger for them and has had so much more importance and here we just really focus on draft leagues formats, which I
Mm-hmm.
believe were much more healthy for the game, but it came with some sort of sacrifice that the
Mm.
quality of play got reduced.
Sure, sure, sure. So let's branch the questions out a little bit further here. We've talked about some games that you've played a lot. What is your kind of like game and work and life balance right now? Do you play as much gaming time? Do you have as much time for gaming as you want? Or is it the kind of thing where you feel like you're spending too much time on games?
I still feel like I'm spending too much time on games. um, so it's become more difficult certainly to put in more hours as much as I would like, but
Mm-hmm.
I I always made it some sort of duty to keep grinding. And in my life, like it's a way I feel like to stimulate my brain. And that's how I've always seen gaming, because again, I've always seen arena FPS as a way to push myself, and I like to grind. I mean, the reason I watch those demos, blah, 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 is because I like the sort of grinding that it involves and the sort of brain stimulation. So I still plan to do it. And sometimes even if I cut down my sleep by 1-2 hours extra, I'm gonna force myself to play games, because I like the stimulation of the brain that
Sure, it's always
that it
worth
goes
it to you.
and the same for music. I mean, I still play an hour of music every day, because for me it's so important to keep my brain active, and gaming has been the same than music pretty much.
Okay. Well, I will. We're not quite at the end yet, but we're getting closer to the conversation. I've had your time for about 40 minutes already. I do want to ask, are there any players in any communities that you still feel like you have yet to have a fair chance to challenge against, either in Duel or in TDM or something? Are there players out there who you look at and you go, I really want to play against that person?
I mean, it's what I like right now is that with paying compensation, we can at least get some fairer ground and play against these Europeans. I can't name necessarily one person specifically.
Sure.
As much respect as I've had for UT players in general, I don't think those are the players that I've used as model in my life.
Okay, yeah.
Like I played, like I told you, I played so much Quake in my life that those are the kind of players that I really looked up to, and I really wanted to play back in the days. Like
We
that.
get it.
Like
You have a love affair with Rafa. It's fine. We get it, buddy. Joking, of course.
But yeah, early on I was watching players like 04, CZM, and like, to me, like I was in really true admiration from what they could achieve in the game, and I've always like classified and bucket these Quake players as more human than the UT players, because I felt UT players they were good at the game, especially now, because they're good. They have good execution skills, and you can get away with sometimes poor decision making, because your aim can rescue you from how to balance. So, but if you want names, maybe I mean it's hard to name people, right?
There's no pressure. You don't have to name anyone. It's fine. I'm just curious if there are
I mean, I'm
players out
certainly
there.
looking up to play these top stars in Europe, because I've played pretty much everyone that I could play in North America, right? Being in the scene for 25 years on and off, definitely. But I certainly enjoyed that. But I know the player styles here, and there's certainly the Europeans. I've played a few of them. And they definitely tend to favor the aggressive style over the defensive style. Versus here, people tend to have a blend or tend to play more sneaky. But there's some sneaky players over there as well. I played Berserker, amazing player, and ton of respect for him. So it's the best player in terms of movement by far. Yeah, it's like he had this very good blend, like similar to NA players, where I still look back to my games with the Pain against the Pain and Flux. Back in the day, Flux was also really a beast at the game, and they both had similar sneaky playstyles. So Berserker reminds me a little bit of those, but I feel like other Europeans I've played were a lot more aggressive. But I can't generalize. I mean, I haven't played all of them, but certainly
Sure.
it's interesting to get to play against new players and figure out how they play. And they're certainly really good at the game, and it's good to have fresh new blood, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So with that said, speaking of fresh new blood, are there any appeals that you want to make to either players in the UT99 community in other areas or into other games and communities that you might want to reach out to? Are there any appeals that you want to make to sell us on UT99? Why this game? Sell the other communities to us.
Well, the thing is, before we can sell it, I believe we need to better balance the game, like I told you, right? Because I feel if we tell them to come at the game right now, they will realize how hit scan heavy it is. I mean, frankly, UT99 has always been hit scan heavy. That I'm not gonna deny it, but certainly I feel we could make it better to make it more appealing to those newcomers. So we need to get the game ready before we can sell it. But I think Last and Killing, those, I'm always giving these two examples because those are actually UT4 and 2K4 players that came to our community. One of the few
who gave it an earnest try, competed and did well.
Yeah, and they're extremely good players, and like they're good at every game they play. They're naturally talented. So, and I feel like, yeah, like these guys, they realize weapon balance is off. So we need to fix something before we can actually make these people come to our game. Otherwise, I think they're just going to be disappointed and realize, oh, this is way too it's kind of heavy, or the weapons deal too much damage, and you can flip map control from one sniper shot. I feel like, yeah, weapon balance is a requirement in for community growth. But with ping compensation, definitely, it made the game more appealing. That we can deny, because it gives everyone a fair chance.
For
but
sure.
and also,
go ahead.
The thing is, UT99 never had in history a good implementation. With all respect to Tim, the implementation from RX and DO, it's definitely by far
it just feels so
superior.
much smoother. It feels so much smoother, and I don't know what it is about it. And
certainly the game is more appealing to these UT2K4 now and UT4 players, because now we have ping comp. So. And these players that play other games, they're very successful as well with hit scan. So
yeah,
I think it actually suits them better right now than ever. But there's certainly balance changes to be made, because frankly, if you look back in history, let's go back to Quake 3, from Quake 3 to Quake Live. I always like this Quake argument, right?
We know.
Going from Quake 3 to Quake Live, a hit scan became ping compensated. And what happened? And so they had to reduce the powerfulness of the hit scan. So railgun went from 100 damage to 80 damage, and the lightning gun, which is some sort of pulse equivalent, its damage was reduced as well. So they compensated from the hit scan, because they knew otherwise the game would be broken. And they wanted to achieve this better decision-making trade-off, good decision-making trade-off, and how you should be winning fight based on what weapons you pick and you choose to engage with. So, yeah, certainly, I feel like UT99 could do better in terms of weapon balance, but sure. It's become a lot more appealing for these other communities out there because of ping compensations. So they should at least give it a try for now.
Absolutely, absolutely. I have always been a long proponent of trying things and giving it a healthy, lengthy try, rather than just like, well, we tried it once and it wasn't for us, for 15 minutes or something. You really got to try it for an extended period of time to get a sense of how it feels. And that's with any kind of game change, I think. Okay, I think we're approaching the end of this thing, so I'm just going to take this moment to give you an opportunity for any kind of shout-outs that you want to give, any credit or accolades or criticisms, anything. The floor is yours to say whatever you want. Please don't get me banned.
Why?
Whatever could I mean?
Yeah, maybe I can give some shout out to my mom, maybe.
All right,
maybe
for sure. If your mom watches this, my God, man, your family loves you.
No, she won't. Yeah, maybe I should give a shout out to Mercy, I guess, because people don't realize that, but when the game was completely dead, like in 2010, maybe not 2012, maybe to all the way up to COVID, Mercy was out his own ways of trying to keep the game active, and it was one of the pioneers of when actually there was this UT99 rebirth that. Mercy would have this sort of unconventional methods of sending mass emails. Were you part of those mass emails?
Yeah, buddy, was I? I was in the community. Of course I was. This guy he left no stone unturned.
So yeah, he would send out mass emails to community members and okay, let's group up and play a game tonight. So he tried to keep the game active himself, and eventually when COVID hit, we started a Discord. Eventually we forked out of it for Dope Pug, so I'll have to give credits to Sly for giving us a platform and and a pugging bot for sustaining the activity for many years. I'll give credit also to all of the. I mean, I'm an admin myself, but I'll definitely give credit to you. You've been part of the admin team. Maximus for all of his UT Pure work. Flux has been part of, and all the mappers we've had as well. EA, Mintech was part of it as well.
Yeah, lots of people.
So I don't want to forget people, but yeah, Rootsoft was also part of it. Blackout Court nowadays. So without you, I think the community growth would certainly not have been as big as it was during the last year. So
yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for answering my questions. If there's anything else that you think of that you want to throw in, this is your last chance to do it. Otherwise, I feel like this has been a great success, and I'm really grateful that you have taken the time out of your day to answer these questions for us all. I'm sure there's lots of people who have been curious to get a sense of who you are and where you stand in our community. And thanks again for all of your time.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for taking the time also, Oscar.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, I'll talk to you soon, yeah?
All right, bye-bye.
See you.